¿Cómo están? Para el examen final del otoño, you have the lesson from chapter 7, which was verbs in the preterite. However, you only have to answer the question on the test. These are the only questions that you have to answer on the test, okay? I'm going to highlight them. How are the preterite stems of decir and traer similar? And what are the verbs that have identical forms in the preterite? So looking at your list of verbs, irregular in the preterite, conjugate decir and traer. Why are they similar? Well, simply because both traer and decir have a J on the stem to conjugate the verb. Yo dije, or nosotros dijimos, right? They both have a J. So that's the answer. That's the way they're similar. They have a J on their conjugation stem. The verbs that are identical forms, if you look at them, you'll see that yo di, yo hice, yo puse, and the verb said is yo fui. But then you have other verbs like venir, decir, ir, traer, querer, tener, all of them. So if you start conjugating these verbs, you'll see that there's another verb that has the same form, identical. Yo fui a la escuela. But you can also say, yo fui una estudiante en la escuela. There's a difference, right? I went to school and I was a student in school. Both of these verbs, ser, and both ser and ir have the same ending conjugations, okay? Next lesson on the test is stress possessive adjectives. This you'll have to learn for the test because they will be on the test, okay? You'll have all of these forms, so make sure you know that mío pertains to yo, nuestro pertains to ourselves, nosotros. So learn your forms to express whose is it? Is it mine, yours, his, hers? Whose is it? Next lesson is identifying preterite versus imperfect. Preterite versus imperfect. Two sets of conjugation. You don't have to use the conjugate the verbs on the test. However, you have to know, how do I know if this conjugation should be imperfect or it should be preterite? In order to answer it, you have to know common uses for preterite, common uses for imperfect tense, okay? The next lesson is affirmative and negative expressions, and they're all listed here in opposites. Algo means nothing, algo means something, nada means nothing. Alguien cannot be confused with algo because alguien means someone. Algo means something. The opposite of algo is nothing. The opposite of alguien is no one. Make sure you know them. There are grammar rules regarding these two, algún and ningún, alguno and ninguno. These forms can be used as they pertain to gender, masculino, femenino, depending on what you're talking about. Some drinks, bebidas, are feminine and plural. So you can say algunas bebidas. You're not going to say alguno because bebida is feminine. And if it's plural, you're going to say algunas, some drinks. Okay? Make sure you follow the grammar rules for this lesson. When you also on the study test, on the test, sorry, you also have vocabulary for chapter 9. Vocabulary for chapter 9 such as aeropuerto, avión, asiento de ventana or asiento de pasillo, pasaporte, maletas, equipaje, asistente de vuelo, all of those words you learn for vocabulary chapter 9. Make sure you study those words. That's number one reason why students fail tests because they do not take the time to learn word definitions. Indirect object pronouns and double object pronouns. Remember, when you have both indirect object and direct object in a sentence, always place the indirect object pronouns first, right? And then your direct object, pronouns. You have to know what are indirect object first in the sentence and what is direct object on the sentence. Indirect object indicates for whom the action is done. The direct object is a noun. It tells you what was being done. Okay? For example, Manny compró los boletos de avión para su esposa. Manny bought the plane tickets for his wife. So the indirect object is su esposa. For whom? What is the direct object? What did he buy? Boletos. Boletos, direct object, you have to know the pronouns. Me, te, le, nos, os, les. If it's indirect object. That's the differences of pronouns. They're the same, except indirect objects, which comes first, will have le, singular, or les, plural, if it's for them, right? Singular for he or she, les for plural them. But if it's the direct object, which comes after the indirect object pronoun, we'll only use lo or la for a singular item. But if plural, in this case, boletos is plural, it will be los. Las if it's a feminine noun. Right? And when you put it together using the pronouns, when you replace both indirect object and direct object with pronouns, you're going to say Manny se los compró. Manny bought them for her. Manny bought them for her. You're replacing with se for her. And los, the pronoun los replaces what? What did he buy? Plane tickets. Manny bought them tickets for her. Order in Spanish is totally different than in English. So this is why you have to take time to understand each lesson you learn so you don't make the mistakes on the test, right? You can't just submit your homework for a score. Expressions of location will also be on the test. This is the lesson that explained to the right, to the left. You express where by using prepositions of location, which we actually learned in Spanish 1, but we're using them again. This time we had est, north, west, and south also to express locations. Means of transportation will be on the test. Avión, tren, a pie, en auto, en coche. All of the means of transportation will be on the test. Formal commands was one of the hardest lessons for this unit. Informal, negative, two commands. Two commands are only given to your siblings or your pets, right? Two commands. However, formal commands has to do with addressing people that you're not familiar with, like your boss, your director, your teacher, someone you're not familiar with. So it was very important for you to know if this command or advice was given to who? To a singular person or to a plural person, right? If you're giving it to a singular person, you were to simply switch the AR verb, right? Ending with e when you conjugate the verb. For example, if it was an AR verb, you say estudie. You give this command to a person you don't know, and you say estudie para el examen. And you say that, estudie, AR verb, changing ending for it. But that's for one person. However, if the instruction was given plural, then I would say estudian, right? Para el examen. Because en it's plural. En is plural. It's a command plural, right? Now, let's move on to the ER and IR verbs. If there are ER and IR verbs, the ending of the verb has to change. right? It's A for singular.